Hey everybody, this is Dave Dugdale, learningdslrvideo.com. Comparing two different monitors again. The last comparison was really long, about a half hour. I'm not going to do that again. This one's going to be much shorter. I'm going to put all my conclusions up front. This is the Ikan that won out on the last video. It's the VK7i. Comes in around $450. This one is a Lilliput 663o/P. Comes in around $380. It's funny, the last video I did, I said these monitors, 7-inch monitors, are very affordable, and somebody said $600 is not affordable, and I was like, well, you're definitely right, but there's other ones like Small HD makes that are like well over $2,000. So you're, relatively speaking, these are definitely affordable for what they do, because they have like focus peaking, a lot of false color. They have a lot of great tools built into them. So what I want to do here is give you my conclusions up front, and then if you want to watch, you can watch the test that I've done. So image-wise, definitely the Ikan wins again here, because it beat out the Small HD as well if you watch the other video. Lilliput, it's got a few issues. So let me show you something real quick. One of my tests I did, here is the two test patterns that I've got pulled up. And basically what I did with the test patterns is I shot 3 different small JPEGs on the card and brought the card into Photoshop, and then I laid test patterns over, flattened the image, and resaved it, put it back into the camera. So what you're seeing is test patterns coming off of the 5D Mark III. And so what you see on the left here is the Ikan. And if we zoom in on just on the Ikan, what I noticed right off the bat, again, I'm not a colorist. These are not calibrated. I don't have any sort of calibration device yet. I'm going to buy one at some point. So you can give me a hard time about that if you want. But we've got the 255, 251, and 239, and you can see the 231. Those shades of white, you could definitely make them all out. So dynamic range-wise, it was pretty good. Now, if we flip over to, this is the Lilliput 663, the 255, 251 and 239 all pretty much look the same. They're the same shade of white. So dynamic range wise, the Ikan was definitely winning. And the same thing happened over here on the blacks. You got 0, 4, and 12 are all blocked together. And then if we go back to the Ikan, over here, the 0 and the 4 were blocked together. They're all the same blackness, I guess you could say, but the 12 and the 20, you could definitely discern there was lighter shades of black, basically. So, and I can tell you right now, of viewing these two, because I'm looking at myself, because it's coming off my 5D Mark III, the Ikan looks awesome. The Lilliput looks okay. It's a bit more contrasty, so I'm not seeing as much detail in the shadows. So pretty much what you're seeing here. And what I want to show you next is what's called a ramp. And this ramp, on the left is the Ikan, on the right is the Lilliput. Now, let me go back to what I said before. These panels are pretty much identical, but when I called them, both of them, and I called Ikan, I said, what's the bit depth of this monitor? And they said theirs was a 6-bit panel. And then I talked to Lilliput, and then I said, what is yours? And they said theirs is an 8-bit panel. But if you look very closely, and there could be some things going on here I don't understand, like dithering, but there is less. You'll see this gradation, basically, or banding, basically, going on with the gradation. And the Ikan looks like it gradates or doesn't have as much banding as the Lilliput does. So, which contradicts the bit depth, because the higher, if you have a 10-bit panel, you shouldn't see any of this banding at all. So it was very interesting to see that the Ikan, even though it's a lower bit depth, is performing better. Another thing you'll notice is this black border around the Lilliput. Now, one of the things I've really struggled with, and I tried to call Lilliput to get some advice because the manual sucks from Lilliput. You can tell that there's some translation errors going on between, I don't know, Chinese and English or something, but getting it to scale properly. And this is, coming right off the 5D Mark III. The DSLR scaling on the Ikan works wonderfully. It's almost so intelligent, it does it for you, basically. But the Lilliput, there's, the pixel to pixel. I've played around with the full frame or 16:9. There's a 4:3 aspect ratio, which I didn't use. There's a whole bunch of different things. I've tried many different combinations, and just playing back. And this is all I'm doing is playing back an image. And it was very hard to get it to work properly. And one of the things I've noticed is there's some artifacts, especially if you go back to here. This is the test pattern. You'll notice that there's a lot of, especially like where those patterns are, and they all kind of crunch up. So it's kind of like this artifacting distortion going on by it's maybe crunched or the sharpening artifacts. I have no idea what the technical term is, but the way it's scaled is not scaling properly. So it just doesn't look right. All right, the next conclusion I want to give you guys is, and the whole real reason I wanted to try the Lilliput is because it's got a built-in speaker and it's also got a headphone jack. Something that the Ican doesn't have, something that the small HD doesn't have. It's about the cheapest field monitor that has a headphone jack. And I thought that was going to be a really big deal. And you're going to see why as I run through all the tests, but I want to give you my conclusions first if you want to stick around and watch all the testing that I did. But basically the conclusion is there's two different ways you can use the 5D Mark III, and with the newer software, the 1.2.3 software that we've got installed right now, firmware I should say, is the Ican really shines when you use the mirroring mode. And so let's talk about that first. So first off, one of the big benefits is it fills the frame. I could see everything perfectly. The DSLR scaling is great. And there's really no waiting, because when I say no waiting, when you go from record and you go to play something back, the big thing that it doesn't do, unfortunately, is you can't watch it on the 7-inch monitor. You can only watch it on the display on the back of the camera, because you can look at both of them because you're in mirroring mode. But you don't have to wait, because when you switch between record to playback mode in a non-mirroring situation, you have to wait like maybe 5-7 seconds before it to switch all over before you can actually play it back. Whereas on the camera, you switch to the playback mode, you can hit play and watch it right on the back of the camera. You don't have to wait for the monitor to do its thing, to switch things around, whatever it's doing inside. But the biggest drawback is you cannot view it on the 7-inch monitor during playback. So if you want to monitor audio, because this one doesn't have any audio outputs on it, you have to plug your headphones or listen to the tiny little speaker on the 5D Mark III and do it in mirroring mode. That's the only way you can do it, unfortunately. So that's kind of a big drawback. Now, the Lilliput kind of shines in the opposite direction in the non-mirroring mode. So my conclusions are you can not only view it at the full display, well, or almost full display, because again, it's hard to get the scaling on this thing correct, but you can also listen to it if you have the headphones plugged into the Lilliput or the little speaker that's in here. So playback, yes, you can hear it, but the big drawback, which I was starting to experience and starting to realize this is not a good thing, is when you go from record to playback mode, like I said, it's about 5 to 7 seconds. It's a long time. So I'm going to give you some examples if you watch the rest of this video. But the big downside is on the Lilliput, even though you can hear it on playback mode, when you're recording or you're in live view mode, basically, the headphone jack doesn't work. So you're going to be swapping between the Lilliput and the headphone jack of the 5D Mark III, which is kind of a pain in the butt. Whereas the Ican, when you're mirroring, just leave it plugged into the 5D Mark III all the time. So they both have their disadvantages. They both have their pluses. But the thing that I felt after a while of playing with it is the speed. I am more of a run and gun shooter, although if I'm setting up monitors, it's probably not going to be so much run and gun. But that 5 to 7 seconds, the example I'm about to give you is like you have a CEO sitting down and he's talking, doing the interview or whatever, and you got the lawyer over your shoulder of the company, making sure that the CEO doesn't say anything wrong. The lawyer wants to play it back and see if he said anything wrong. Well, on the Ican, you're going to have to display it on your small 5D Mark III in the mirroring mode. but that amount of time it takes to go from record to playback is instantaneous. Whereas if you're doing it in non-mirroring mode, it's like 5-7 seconds. So it's kind of a big deal. So what would be nice is if you could take, and you guys could maybe help me out, if you could take the loop out, HDMI out to some maybe small battery powered speaker. That would be so cool. If you had a little thing you could just attach to it on the back side of it. That's just a little speaker that goes up. That's self-powered HDMI, just loudspeaker. That would be an awesome tool to add on to these like small HD or the iCan unit. All right, so that's pretty much it for the conclusions. Stick around if you want. If none of that made sense to you at all about the mirroring and non-mirroring, it'll make more sense as I demonstrate it for you. So stick around and watch that. But before I do, just a couple of other little minor things. Construction-wise, they say this is made out of metal, and this is out of plastic, which I guess it sounds about right. One of the things I don't like about the Lilliput, and I don't know if you can see this, but there's these wires dangling off of here, and there's the tally light, this like XLR type connector, has like 4 pins in it, and one of them is for power. So the only way you can connect this up like I got now, because I'm not on battery power, because I've been having them on for so long because I've been testing them, is you have to connect the XLR and then you have to connect the power supply to it. So that's kind of kludgy. I didn't like that at all. All right, so that's pretty much the conclusions. And next up is you can watch the tests that I've gone through. Maybe it'll make more sense. And what I want to really say here is, I'm putting a lot of emphasis on being able to monitor the audio with these monitors. And you might be thinking to yourself, Dave, you're crazy. I never shoot that way. Your shooting style might be totally different. You might not do corporate videos. You might not do things in a studio a certain way. So none of this stuff might make any sense to you. And you was like, well, I'm just going to buy the iCan because it's got a better image. And that's basically what I'm doing, is buying it because it's a better image and it's a little bit faster response time in terms of my workflow. Your workflow might be totally different. So go ahead and watch the test. This is the iCan, and this is the Lilliput. This is the Canon 5D Mark III. HDMI is going to the iCan first and looped to the Lilliput. So what I want to describe to you first is I'm running an older version of the Canon firmware and with Magic Lantern, which is 113 Magic Lantern 2.3. And the reason is, so if I get out of here and I hit the live view button, and we go into movie mode, and you're going to notice that there's going to be the iCan's going to beat out the Lilliput in terms of response time once it sees the signal. And the reason is it's the way I'm looping it from here to here. When I loop it from here to here, that swaps. So a performance issue in terms of which one comes up first, just disregard that. So if I hit the trash can button, you can see right here I've got raw video. For this one, I can actually record raw video, which is just awesome. And that's the reason I've downgraded this to the older Canon firmware. Now, what I want to do is demonstrate to you audio, what's going on the back of the screen, and audio, the two different things I want to show you. So the first thing I'm going to do is disconnect this and put this into the headphone jack. And this is just my earbuds. And I'm just going to tell you when I hear audio and when I don't hear audio. So right now, with the HDMI connector connected, we have no screen, a blank screen. That's important to remember because we're going to be changing that later. So right now with the headphones plugged in, I got one in my ear, I can tell you that I hear audio. So audio is good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press record. And I'm going to record a few seconds. I'm going to talk a little bit louder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Testing 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to hit stop, and I'll verify that I did hear all the audio while I was recording. So now I'm going to hit play, and again, response time, just disregard which one comes up first. It's going to be the iCan, and here comes the Lilliput. Okay, so now I'm going to hit the set or play button, and I can verify to you guys that I am not hearing anything off the earbuds, but if you listen closely, you'll hear the speaker on the back of the Lilliput is actually putting out audio, which is very cool. So now what I'm going to do is take the earbuds from the 5D Mark III, because the 5D Mark III, when I play back, has no audio. no audio, no screen on playback. But when I hit play here, I can verify to you guys that on here, I can hear. So just to review, during record, you can monitor the audio, but on playback, you cannot monitor the audio on the 5D Mark III. That's why I wanted to test out the Lilliput, because all the other models like this Ican, Small HD, especially anything in this price range, don't have a headphone jack. So here's the scenario. Let's say this doll is the CEO of a company, and let's say you've got the lawyer standing behind you of the company, and he's monitoring everything that the CEO says. And let's say he says, hey, can you play that back for me? You say, oh, sure. So you hit play. If you have one of these iCam monitors, Small HD, well, you can't hear anything. So what you'll have to do is unplug the HDMI in order for them to hear. Now, then you got to remember that we're using an old version of Canon firmware. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to upgrade the Canon firmware, basically get rid of Magic Lantern and go to the newest one, and we're going to see what happens next. All right, I'm updating the firmware, and you can see I'm just about done. 100% done. Update from 113 to 123. I say okay. All right, I've done the firmware update, and right now I am HDMI still connected to the monitors. Let's go ahead and hit menu, and I'll wait a second here, and then what we're gonna do first is, you can see I'm on no mirroring. I'm gonna go ahead and do mirroring, and you'll see what happens here in a second. So right now I can see the display down here, but I've got no signal up here. But if I were to go out of menu, press the menu button again, now you'll notice that I have the screen here and the screen as well up here. What I'm going to do is record audio. It's just testing 1, 2, 3. This is after the firmware update of 1.2.3. I'll hit stop. Now watch what happens. I'm going to hit play, and you can see it here. And if I hit play, let's see if you can hear it. It's just testing 1, 2, 3. This is after the firmware update. So we could hear it coming out of the speaker. So just to verify that it's only coming out of here and it's not coming out of Lilliput, it shouldn't be coming out of here, I'm going to hit play, and yes, I can verify to you that it's not coming out of here as well. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go menu, and we're going to take it off mirroring. And then we're going to hit play, and then we're going to hit here, and let's go ahead and bring it to the first frame and hit start. And nothing's coming out of the 5D Mark III, but I can tell you right now that it is coming out of the headphone jack of the Lilliput. Okay, that's pretty much it. I'm still working on my 5D Mark III course. I keep getting derailed on some of these items because I've needed one of these for a very long time, and I'm actually using it for my course. So if you're interested in my course, hopefully I'll have it done here in the next couple of weeks. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.